Kia tātou, he karakia tātou. Whakataka hauki te kuru. Whakataka hauki te tonga. Kia mākina kina ki uta. Kia mātana karaki tāna. E he ake ana te atikura. Te tio, te huta, te hauhi. Te hei mauriura. Cease the winds from the west, cease the winds from the south, let the breeze blow over the land, let the breeze blow over the ocean, and let the red tip dawn come to sharpen the air. Touch of frost comes with glorious day.
Good question, Robert. Thank you. So just a couple of notes before we begin. There's no financial summary report for this meeting due to staff illness. There is a late discussion item for the board report, seeking board feedback in relation to the removal of a shed at Roadside. Lynn will join the meeting via Zoom for this. I'd like to extend a special welcome to Shannon, who's come to present to the dog control and dog responsibilities. Also a welcome to the Marine Farmers Association, to Joe and Nina, and also to Ainsley and Karen, who are going to be giving us an update on our youth council activities. Really, sorry.
So just clarification. So the report from Shannon about dog control would normally be part of our council business rather than an actual presentation. Yeah, it was yeah. Yeah, so council staff is included in the body agenda.
Okay. But presentations are, aren't they?
Council staff.
Only agenda
Presentations.
So from the council staff.
Yeah, council staff. Yeah, so this is being put in. That's where it belongs. Shannon's report should have a presentation. It should be report.
a report. Oh, I see. Yeah,
Yeah, it should be a report to council.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
I
just
see what you're
being
saying.
pedantic.
No, that's good.
I've got a different view about that, but I guess our governance people will work that out.
Yes. Anyway, thank you for that point. So today we have 15 minutes for public forum today. So speakers must be respectful, avoid repetition and criticism of elected members and or staff, and avoid speaking on matters subject to legal proceedings. So today we have two presenters for public forum. We have Helen Bracefield and Inga. No, sure, I don't think I saw. Oh, perfect. Yes, would you like to sit at the table, Helen, or are you happy to? You're welcome to stand up. We'll sit. Yep, wherever is comfortable. Wherever is comfortable for you. Okay, absolutely.
Okay. So thanks for this opportunity to speak at Open Forum, and thank you to the Māori League on behalf of this district. I think public office department is interested. I've come here today to talk about public health in relation to the removal of the doggy-do bags, the rubbish tins and the dispensers, the reduction in toilet cleaning in the tourist season in our district, and the reduction in water testing. It was so alarming in regard to public health to recently see that your measures of removing the doggy-do bag from the dispenser bins and the frequent toilet cleaning and water testing schedule advertised had come to an end, but conversely excellent last week to see that they've been reinstalled until the decisions about these essential operational costs of public health are continued or discontinued after the consultation and gaming district plan is made. TDC have done a great job with the bags, dispensers and rubbish tins. They're colourful, they're strong, they're stainless steel, they're really attractive and they don't seem to be cold to dentals. And in summer they're full to overflowing with aluminium cans, they're full of food bags. They're used really frequently by approximately 3 food forgotten. Food bags have gone from being fringe compliance to mainstream behaviour. And you guys have really encouraged this. That's wonderful. And the pristine green shape and these canals have made a kind of minimal litter by comparison to things not being here. So I've got an email now. So sorry, I'm not able to she just, Emma is one of our local vets, and she has some pretty good public health issues.
So I'm going to speak on her behalf. She's gone bush to do some very important kiwi monitoring. So, good on. These are the points that she'd like to have raised. Dog poo and public toilet are both public health issues. They are not niceties. Dog feces can pose public health risks if feces containing roundworm eggs, which very nearly every dog is born with, are accidentally ingested by a human. This can result in a condition called visceral larval migraines, a very severe and debilitating condition. Mostly children are at risk. Other risks are potential bacterial. It is therefore important to foster a culture and expectation that dog feces are collected by the owners. The surest way for our council to care for its citizens and visitors is to provide poo bags and accessible bins. As a dog owner, I use the bags as well as use the bags to collect poo that has not been collected, and then along with any park rubbish, use the available bin. Without either of those available, our parks will experience increased poo and increased litter. The availability of clean toilets sends the same message: be clean, respectful, and care for our environment. I've seen visitors squatting in gutters, urinating and defecating in places where toilets are either inaccessible or so filthy their use is not an option. Do we really want to descend to that? These are essential services. While I understand that there are financial pressures, it's important that savings are made to improving efficiencies and sound financial planning rather than cutting essential citizen services. Let's not be penny wise, pound foolish. Thank you. Thank you.
So, in addition to the risk public health by not providing the bins, etc., I'm really concerned about the babies and the toddlers and the kids that naturally crawl and play in the sand and on our many beaches and in the grassy areas on the reserve. I reckon that they'll be further compromised with the possibility of bacterial contamination. And we all know the nuisance, the smell, the stain that poo has on our shoes, on our cars, and our offices. In regard to managing the twice daily cleaning of the public toilets during the summer busy tourist season, we must say that there's usually an additional 25,000 visitors. What I feel we need to keep in mind that these days is a public health issue that affects approximately 80% of our population, and it's those people who suffer frequency and urgency in their foods. Those are the people with Crohn's disease, irritable bowel, with rectal cancer, with anal cancer, or inflammatory bowel disease. They often have fierce blood-stained diarrhea. It's really distressing to them, and even more so if the toilet isn't clean or available. It's really bad. So this is what I'm requesting, that the board, along with the support of Chris and Celia, our TDC representatives, will put in a submission to 25-26 annual planning committee, requesting that these essential services protecting public health, maintain the toilet procedure, vision of the jogging that remain with an operational cost in our budget, and not require the public to persuade the council by making submissions to the annual plan repeatedly or effectively. This does appear to be a good policy, and good operational costs takes an impact on public health, and I reckon that the public use take place. So thanks sincerely for your consultation and consideration.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Helen. I think she already had given it to her. Pretty sure. Did you get a copy? Oh, you haven't got a copy. Sorry, I just assumed. Helen, are we able to get a copy of your email and presentation for Roe to include? And the
Yeah.
minutes?
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Grant. Sorry, I thought I'd seen it.
And I'll do that in the course of time rather than today if I may.
Sure.
Yeah, surely, but I will.
Great. Sounds excellent. Kirsty, welcome.
No questions to go?
Questions?
No.
Yeah, very wise.
Kia ora, my name's Kirsty McLeod and I'm here representing the Tākaka Village Green Society. We're in the process of dissolving the legal entity that brought the village green to life. As per our constitution, we had our first special general meeting where a motion was passed unanimously to dissolve the society, and the next special general meeting to ratify this motion will be held at the beginning of June. The society feels the work has been done. The village green is safe in TBC's capable hands. There are changes to the rules for incorporated societies, and we all feel there's no further need for the Tākaka Village Green Acquisition Society Incorporated to be functioning. The management of the green will be handed over to TBC, and we've met with the board about this. Local social services will continue to care for the notice board. I would particularly like to put in a word for the organic vegetable growers who have had a long-term understanding with us to use the green on a Wednesday. Currently, Coconito Organics are the mainstay, but I expect that this movement could grow. This is a great community asset in the Tākaka. Our fervent wish is that the organic movement continues to have access to the village green without being hampered by undue bureaucratic processes. And I would strongly recommend that TBC enables and supports this community service to continue. And thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. I think we might have some questions for you. Chris.
Thanks, Kirsty. I guess everyone has its life, one way and purpose. So in your conversations with Lynn, has it been discussed how managing bookings for use of the green will be managed?
Through TBC, but she wasn't, my memory is that she wasn't totally sure about that, how that would work. I think it might be some sort of an online thing that people go online and make the request for people. Yeah, as per other reserves the TBC manages. Okay. And she also said that TBC don't support commercial activities or political activity.
Thanks. I'm restraining myself. Not towards you, but in terms of, you know, perhaps a policy around political activities, given then what we do.
Well, that was the original, not the original, but one of the things about the village green was, you know, effectively so long. People could go out there and spout about this and that.
So in terms of the mural, then it's assumed that when that needs replenishing, renovating, that will be council responsibility.
We have just done that, but technically the mural is not really owned by TBC. It's not actually on the village green, it's beside the village green on that building. So I suspect guys don't actually own it. Yeah. Could be wrong about that, but we've just had a renovation of it.
Yes,
Yeah,
just a sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Celia.
Through you, Chair, I suggest that we ask for a report from staff about the transition to TBC for the next meeting.
And I'd just like to add thanks to those who've been involved in it for quite a lot of years now. And it seemed to sound like a balmy idea to well, let's just buy that bit of land and, you know,
And even
it's been really successful and a real credit to those that's had that vision and have worked to maintain it and keep it and develop
it's
it.
a beautiful thing. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Do you know what I didn't do? I moved straight into public forum, didn't do apologies or didn't do the minutes. Circle back.
You can do it now.
We put out to the public.
Oh yeah, apologies normally before, but minutes after, that's cool. But what we might do is before we do it, we'll do apologies quickly. But no one's heard from Henry. Can we put an apology in for him? Is he not here? Oh no, we can't hear me. Dusted. Oh dear. Sorry, no, throw him under the bus inadvertently.
Depending on when we finish, I'll need to leave earlier for the water project meeting.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So everyone, all those Favour? No, you're good.
Great. Okay. thank you, Judge.
I'm going to further muck around with the agenda and I'm going to invite our youth council representatives up to the table because they have also needs to get back to school and other things.
Oh, well, I don't need.
You
to
don't
go
need
back
to.
school.
No.
That's gone a long time ago.
Another chair, just sort of-
Yeah, grab it.
I'm
See.
quite happy to stand.
Have you seen?
If that's-
Welcome.
Okay, so Kia ora, I'm Karen Howison. I'm a local youth habitat youth workers. And as part of my role, we support the youth council. And so today we're just coming along. Ainsley, who is one of our youth councillors. Currently, we only have 2. We have some issues with people moving on. A lot of the youth councillors who join are new to their teams and then they leave for May. So we're just at the beginning of our process of recruiting more youth councillors and looking at what events we will do through the year. This week we'll be celebrating or promoting anti-bullying through a Pink Shirt Day on Friday with cupcakes and compliments and to take a stand against bullying. Throughout the year we'll look at doing other events. Next week is Youth Week and we're doing a visit over the hill to do an escape room with lots of other young people from various other areas across the top of the south, which is a first kind of collaboration. And later in the year, we'll probably do something around the health awareness week, and we'll be driven and what youth councillors wish to do. So that's a really kind of quick snapshot, but we are hoping to be, we'll be here at each meeting.
Oh, fantastic. Great, and if we can help that with that in any way, just let us know.
Thank you.
Oh, silly.
Right. We need to send an agenda to these guys for each meeting.
Have you had any contact with Henry Jackson at all? He was the last youth. That's right. No, just thought maybe he'd reached out because he's not here to double check with. But you did, yeah.
And we have a youth council representative of Collingwood as well. So we'll try and
Great.
alternate.
Well, I think we're meeting in Collingwood
Next month.
next time, June. Yeah, so we'll make sure you get all the details.
I've just got a question.
Yeah.
So, there is a proposal to actually put and establish a bike park in Takapuna. Because Forterra have offered to, actually give the land, Notability Street. But I've been coming up against a bit of conversation saying that bike parks, are actually not right now. So I don't expect you to have an answer, but I'm just wondering if, if you were able to kind of suss out what the deal is for bike parks at this time and whether or not you think that would be a good use of our reserve funds.
I believe it's the biggest skate park as well.
Well, I could do some research and ask some people, but I do think that a lot of people would enjoy that.
Right.
A lot of young kids that be around sit on their scooters and their bikes. Yeah, I'm not sure if it would pose the issue of more dodgy places for people to hang out, but that might be in the evenings or something. I don't know.
It'll be well lit.
How many trees we put in?
No trees, well lit.
Spotlight.
Yeah. And an alarm.
That would be fine.
And one thing, the other thing was about thinking about whether or not you must apply to council. Do they want to board, funds for it?
Mm.
Thanks for sharing that.
Excellent. Great. Oh, thank you so much for taking the time to come. Nice to meet you and we look forward to seeing you again. You know, I've got to remember where I was.
then no items.
Minute. There we go. Declarations of interest. Yes, there we go. Any declarations of interest from any board members about any items on the agenda? Robert?
Just recently told about Arts Council.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you. And me.
Yes,
For the,
and you.
for the boys and girls show.
Aren't you
item.
the board rep on that though?
I am the board rep on that, but I'm also the treasurer.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
So,
Okay.
so I just withdraw from that one.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Your boys and girls show for me. Thank you. So can we confirm that the Golden Bay Community Board meeting from Monday the 31st of March is true and correct? Moved by Celia. I'll second. Oh, seconded by Grant. Thank you. All in favour? Lovely. Late items. So we talked about the late item. That was the board report. Removal of the shed. We'll just do that as part of the board report when we get there. Cool. So we'll move on to our presentation. So first up, we have the Marine Farming Association presentation. So we have Ned. Welcome, Ned. I can't even find my presentation. I've got dogs. Master.
Yeah, I'm happy to do this as a presentation and to take questions throughout. So just a quick introduction. So my name is Ned Wells and I'm here today basically as General Manager of the Marine Farming Association. So we are an industry body and we represent salmon, oyster and mussel growers across Te Tauihi. And that's about 70% of New Zealand's aquaculture production. And we also own some water space, so we're a shareholder in some of the farms in Golden Bay and in Tasman Bay, and we own spat holding space in the Marlborough region as well. And with the revenue generated by that water space ownership, we work across 5 key areas. So that includes planning and regulatory functions, social license, research and development, labour and skills, and environment, which is, I believe, why I'm here today. So I'm just going to talk about some of the initiatives that the MFA leads on behalf of the industry, and just a couple of other things that the mussel industry is focusing on the environment space. So talk about the MFA Environment Program, the Industry Beach Cleaning Program that we run, our Environment Committee, some of the alternative float technology, which I think was a question from the committee board. Talk about float recycling, biodegradable ropes, and just touch on some of the industry support for the community as well. It's a better way to do this. It's all right if there isn't. Let's go.
We're right, aren't we?
That's right. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I'll give it a go on the slide if it works out.
All right, so just a little bit on the environment certification program. So the companies apply for this annually, and there's basically points of order for a whole lot of different initiatives that are environment related. And just a couple of examples for that is if you upgrade the muffler system on the vessel, if you attend all of the workshops that the MFA runs and other organisations run to go over and upskill your crew on best practice. you'll receive points for that. And if you are hitting all of the beach clean targets, you'll receive points for that. So it's kind of like a, it's not externally audited, but it's a little bit like some of the compliance programs that other industries run. Yeah, they have external auditors come in. We haven't done that just because we're quite a small industry. It takes quite a lot of stuff. So we also have an environment mentor. So he's employed by the Marine Farming Association that goes out on the water and undertakes farm audits to make sure everything is as it should be. And while he's on the water, he'll also jump on board the vessels and educate the crews on our best practice. Make sure they've got standing nets to scoop up anything that goes over the side and bins on board to put it in. So we've got 11 companies certified in 2024. Now that doesn't sound like very many, but there's actually all of the companies that operate on the water on a regular basis. So it's about 98% of the industry that's actually working, and 100% of the people that are working on the Golden Bay. So it is actually pretty good coverage. Got 5 different levels, and you can see them on the screen there. And I've already talked a little bit about those marketing criteria. So just another one is that if you're during those on-water audits, if everything's not the way it should be, then you lose points, and you can certainly go backwards in terms of your score. And all of the scores are publicly available on the website.
Just a question.
Sure.
What does it mean? What does it matter whether you've got a bronze? Who benefits from that? And why would you want to make it be better?
Well, I think all of the companies are actually pretty committed to good environmental performance, and there actually isn't anything for them in it other than having this as a status.
Right.
But they're all still subscribed.
Okay.
So, yeah. So industry beach cleaning. So the MFA membership. So when I'm talking about the MFA membership, I'm talking about the whole top of the south. So to go here, so it's not just, this is not just numbers for the Golden Bay, for the Wairere beach. So we average about 2,000 hours per annum of beach cleaning. And for last calendar year, it was actually 2,946. So it's pretty good effort from the industry. Picked up 4,454 kilos of debris, and 38% of that was in some way attributable to agriculture. And 414 hours was spent cleaning Golden Bay beaches, and 186 kilos collected, 42 kilos attributable to agriculture. Sorry, can you just go back there? I'll just show you quickly if you look at that graph. So that's just industry effort over time. So this program's been going for 15 years now, and you can see there's an increase in effort across those years, and the average is heading in the right direction. So I'm really pleased about that. Slide.
In terms of that, what are people noticing?
In terms of what are they seeing?
More there, what's there?
Yeah.
More agriculture industry material there, less there, picking up more of other people's rubbish.
Yeah, so
Anything at all really.
that's quite interesting actually. So it does vary by region. So for example, in Tasman Bay, we pick up very little agricultural waste, but a whole lot of everybody else's stuff. So and in Golden Bay, there's actually pretty low levels of agriculture debris. We have had times we've lost quite a lot of floods during storm events here. So sometimes you get a spike in the number of floods that we report. But generally things are getting better. So there actually used to be a higher percentage. If you look at that data, there was a higher percentage of agricultural land debris in the past. So we are heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
Or there's more other stuff ending up in the ocean. So
Yeah.
I can tell you what the actual contribution is from the land derived stuff.
And I think there are people who particularly, other dog walkers, but other people too, who have a doggy do bag actually, and when they particularly walk over the beach and put rubbish in, and so there'll be others, helping you with the efforts too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And we actually do have some fantastic people from outside of the industry that just take beach cleans regularly and submit data. So we actually put that.
Got a question there. In terms of bits and pieces washing up on the beach, is there a current that goes in the bay? Because we seem to get a lot of people saying that they pick up a lot of stuff around Kahara, and it doesn't seem to be repeated in the rest of the bay. And I'm just thinking, is there, because we've got a lot of agriculture out to the west, does that mean that there's a drift?
Oh, absolutely.
Across?
So there are sort of hotspot areas where there's both tide and wind converge.
Right,
And certainly in Golden Bay, you have got a lot of westerly. It's not native by westerly flows, so it probably will get that way.
right.
But
So
yeah,
it's not necessarily connected to what is directly offshore, but where something is found. Would be from
yeah, not
other
always.
parts.
Yeah. So it's more wind than tide. When it comes
Oh,
to So yeah, UFA Environment Committee, that's a dedicated group that we run that has representatives from all of the companies operating. Again, all of the companies in Golden Bay are represented on that committee. We've got a couple of smaller companies in Marlborough that aren't present at the moment, so that's something we need to work on. We meet 6 times per year. We develop a whole range of standard operating procedures and codes of practice. So that's well, there's one for just about everything you can think of relating to agriculture. Some of them are incredibly boring, but are very useful. Some examples that are relevant to this group. So we developed one for Wainui that actually reduced the hours of operation and stopped the use of radios and a few other things just to reduce the impact on the Wainui Bay residents. We also implemented a low revs protocol for extended Tokoe. That was related to trying to reduce the noise impacts for Hara and that area of the bay. And then there's all sorts of different ones about how you handle rubbish and sinking lines and various other things. So, and that system works quite well because all of the companies have input. Yeah, it's basically over to them to implement what they've agreed around that table. We also respond to complaints. So we do receive complaints from time to time. Talk about the reasons for those and how to respond and how to engage with the community. And that group also oversees that beach planning program, which I talked about earlier, and the work of the environmental mentor, who is the employee who goes around cleaning beaches, educating groups. So alternative float technology, we've actually talked about this a few times here now, haven't we? There are a range of different ways being developed that are more suited to higher energy environments like Golden Bay in terms of float technology and how those are held onto the backbones. So you can see on the top there, the orange float on the left hand side, that's a traditional lashed float, which uses the lashing, which is quite basically a twine effectively. Then you've got a pin float, so that was developed by Cleveland Mussels, and there's a clamp float in the middle there. These are all sort of their, obviously, brand names, as opposed to anything more complicated. And there's also retro attach on the right hand side as you're looking at it. So that one's the latest piece of technology developed by one of the companies, and it's quite an interesting bit of work because it fits every float that's already in circulation. So you don't have to buy a whole new set of floats. You can just do away with the lashing and put those on. So they're starting to manufacture those in quite big numbers now. It's a retrofittable option. And basically all of those rely on a rubber grommet and then some sort of a mechanical connection, whether it's a bolt or the pin pressure on it. And they're working really well. And just about all of the companies are using them in Golden Bay, and especially for end floats, that's where the most energy comes in the lines. Basically goes down the backbone like a train track and tries to flip the end floats off when the big waves come through. So yeah, most of the lines in Golden Bay now got one of those forms on the ends, and some of the companies have got them right the way along. So that's encouraging.
Have you seen a decrease in floats?
Absolutely.
Escaping?
Yeah. So we had a couple of bad years. Well, 2021 and 22, there were some reasonably decent storms, and we did have a reasonable float loss in those years. But a lot of that technology, this technology has come since then, and float loss numbers have gone down. So it's encouraging. Next slide, please. So we quite often get asked what happens to floats when they're no longer being used on the water. So in the last few years, we've partnered with FuturePost sure if you've come across that company. So they're basically, they can recycle just about all forms of plastic and they turn them into posts and a few other things like garden edging. And all of our floats that have reached their end of life on the water, or when people are transitioning to those other types of technology, they're basically recycled and turned into posts and other things, which then have a 50-year lifespan and they can go another round through the recycling process. So that's working really well, that partnership. That particular company can't get enough floats, they want everything we can get. So it's good. We are working on biodegradable tyres. It's quite a complicated puzzle trying to put something out there that degrades at just the right rate so that you don't end up losing gear, but it also breaks down fast enough when you're done with it. So we've got a few different effectively recipes on the go at the moment. And the main thing we're working on is the tyres for spat. So they're quite a short-term use. That piece of rope is only out there for 6 to 10 months location. So that's basically an ideal area to try and get this product, these biodegradable products working really well. And then we can put it in parts of the farming process.
What sort of microplastics would be produced from that though?
Oh, so these products will break down from the water completely back to their original components, which tend to be carbon.
Okay.
So you don't really get microplastics. You get them going through a small phase, but not a traditional microplastics. So things will eat.
Things will eat that.
Microbes
Microbes are going to eat it.
because it's a natural product.
Pretty different solutions.
We're still obviously not going to talk about seed, but they end up with the seed. Now, this is just a really quick, so we've sort of talked about some of the perhaps the negatives that go on around the industry. I'm just going to touch on a couple of things that the industry is doing to give back to Golden Bay. Now, I hope that everybody here is familiar with the water space that's allocated to the Community Trust. So that's ramping up at the moment. There's some revenue starting to come through, and as the stage development happens, there will be an increasing amount of money coming in from that. We expect that to be about $500,000 per annum once that site's fully developed. Pretty helpful. We get the bike parks and skate parks and things that deal with that. So I'm inclined.
So are you part of that community trust?
I'm not actually involved in that one.
Right.
So I'm involved with the.
I was just wondering about their criteria. Yeah.
No, you'll have to call on someone else to answer that one.
I was just wondering what's the time frame? Because I think it comes up a bit when people talk about the Golden Bay Community Trust ramping up to $500,000. Is that like 20 years time?
No.
I think it'll be a bit quicker than that.
Okay.
So there are stage development requirements in the consent, so it requires monitoring after a period, and then the consent owners can apply to move to stage 2. So they're reasonably close to doing that at the moment. So yeah, I wouldn't think it'd be 5 at most, certainly not 10. Yeah. And just also there's a couple of companies there, so Clearwater Mussels and United Fisheries, they operate a line in Golden Bay, a line each, and then donate all of the profits from that to the high school. So that's quite a handy little budget increase, budget bonus for the high school. Yeah. So it's every cycle, so it takes as long as the mussels are grown, harvested, profits go through. That it works out about every year between them, the way the cycle's staged. And also just acknowledging that we are a pretty significant water space owner in Golden Bay. So they're actually the largest single water space owner, if you break it down through groups. And that works out to be about 20%, and that's both through settlement space and through holdings in the railroad companies, which is effectively buying into an existing model. So yeah, just
Obviously, the high school business. And what generated that? What initiated? Who initiated that?
So that's the reason we have that scheme in a few different places around the country. So we have that in Marlborough as well, where some of the companies operate online as they would, with their own benefits, but just provide the profits back to the local schools. So that's partially the NMFA initiative, but we just lined up a couple of companies that will do that.
So that was an initiative out of the association to do that. It wasn't like did the school approach and say we've got a great idea or a great need or something? Or was it, I wanted to know just
How they got
who picked
chosen.
it off.
I think it's actually voluntary, but don't quote me on that because it started a long time ago. Well, 4 months on. So yeah, that's been working for a number of years.
Through the chair, I just wonder why Collingwood doesn't get a, they're the poor old cousins again, perhaps.
So I just wonder perhaps if there's space to rotate the funding through different groups, perhaps.
Possibly. I think
Potentially.
Golden Bay High might be a bit upset.
Oh, they might. You could not minute that part, Joe.
Yeah.
Great. But just a suggestion.
I think the Collingwood suggestion is a really good.
Mm. Okay.
As well would be the answer, wouldn't it?
As well, as well. Yeah.
Oh, and that might be there, isn't it? Very good. So yeah, happy to take any other questions on any of that.
There's been a few issues with ropes, floating, some vehicles getting bought. I know there's been it's been addressed through right channels, but is there anything you can say about that? About
Yeah,
how
look,
that's getting resolved and
that issue is largely, it is compliance at the back, where there's not all of the lines being used. And so we've got that pretty well sorted out. So we've talked a little bit about standard operating procedures for developing single compliance. And we've updated the operational management plans for those sites. So that's going through council shortly to be revised management plan. And this is better processes being put in place from the industry side. The other side of it is education. Because just about all of those issues have happened because the moties haven't understood that there are hazards within the aquaculture. So a lot of the time it's actually a little bit private wash. You have people doing 25 knots through the farms and not actually aware of what a cardinal mark means or what a special mark means. And that's just the nature of anyone can own a boat. You know, really get the education. Just go for that.
so it's not, it won't become an issue in the bay. It's not something that could happen here.
No, I don't think so. No, because all of the lines are in use, so they're all loaded.
In terms of these little bits of that sort of thing, are these, that we are sort of worried about finding them on the beaches. That is until there's a biodegradable alternative that will continue. Why? How? Because that we get a lot of feedback from people who find bits like that on the beach, and is that to do with the operators, or is it inevitable, or how does it happen? Can it be improved, or do we need to wait until we get biodegradable?
Yeah, look, so I mean, probably the best way to address that is we have a, what I want to sound silly about a hierarchy of controls to try and stop that from getting out of the water. So we're running all these programs, we've got education crews, we've got operating procedures, we give the boats landing nets and rubbish bins to put it in that ends up over the side. Despite all of that, we do still have a little bit ending up in the water. Sometimes it's just because there's really challenging conditions out there.
Yeah.
So guys are pushing the hardest to reasonable sea conditions and they just lose. But some of it comes down to new employees that need more education, attitudes. There's no single cause.
In some places, you still use rope, and so that new method of fastening the boats does that make any difference to this, or is it inevitable that they're still using right for other situations?
Yeah, so there will still be road used in other parts of the farm operation, which is where we're trying to develop those biodegradable stocks.
But the checks of right bus, well,
Yeah, there's nothing that can fall off.
right.
Yeah.
And slightly away from the rope topic, thinking about bringing all the mussels in over Tarakoe, have you thought about accommodation for workers and the infrastructure that you might need or that you could bring?
I'd probably like to turn that background on council.
Oh.
But yeah, that's a real challenge finding accommodation for workers.
Yeah.
And I think some of the companies will probably set up different operations to go away and some of that stuff around employment. I think it's sort of it's
I mean, permanent housing.
That's a good caveat. Yeah, good.
You know, there's a significant concern around the road around the Watervalley Road, and you know, council can't rate all space. You know,
Pleased you feel that way, Chris.
well, maybe it can, but don't.
Not to.
But you know, there's a concern around the increased traffic movements around there as the industry develops. Probably exponentially at some point will be, you know. Anywho, there's not a sort of there's not a call on the industry to contribute to those roading issues, which will have a big impact on.
I think it's a bit of a hard ask to put infrastructure for all users at the beat of one infrastructure. It's a bit of a challenge. So that there are plenty of other, I guess, interest groups in the road as well. So obviously we have trucks going over. So wouldn't mind seeing it upgraded, but
By council upgrade the road.
sure. Is that the question?
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because you'd say, you know, once you've got a whole lot of trucks and truck training that's coming through there, you know, maintenance requirements. So, anyway,
As long as you're asking the people that are running quarrying operations, there's no questions.
can do that. It's in the room.
Well, that's just one of them.
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry.
And Taylor's and others.
Yeah, so your position is that actually council need to provide those facilities, the standards that you require to function as an industry.
I think so.
So that, yeah.
Can you think of, is there another model?
Oh, well, you know, so you're talking about the not wanting to be subsidising other road users by contributing, in fact, ratepayers and contribute, so it's interesting, isn't it? It's not a simple thing, and
So I will, so we might not be charged rates for water space, but I can certainly tell you that we are charged for Birthage and Walkridge and Port Tarakoe
yeah,
at rates that are significantly higher than a lot of other parts of the country. So we are contributing to the council.
Any other questions for Ned while he's here, or should we let him? Thanks so much, Ned, for coming and presenting, and we appreciate all the willingness to communicate and be involved in the community. So thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Now I just pause for I'm sorry. We can email you a copy of the presentation if you like. Yeah. Great. I'll make a note. Thank you. All right. Who have we got now? Richard, dog-based cycle and walkways.
All members of the board, councillors and staff and public. Tēnā koutou katoa. Thanks for having me here. Yes, Richard Struthers, and I'm here representing the Gold Coast Cycling Society. And that was a great segue into my subject.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chris. Pōtarakai development, vulnerable road users being pedestrians and cyclists and motorists, and the route and the potential of the route from Pohara Valley all the way to Lighter Bay, which I include that going beyond the port because there are a lot of reasons. So my purpose in attending today is to highlight those risks to all road users, to highlight the deficiencies, what we believe are deficiencies in the planning and consenting process for port development and the proposed Tally Chiller, and to illustrate the potential to achieve a good and safe outcome on Abel Tasman Drive, to sell a vision to you, and then to make a request that the board supports promoting to council that we have a staged improvement of Abel Tasman Drive, like immediate term, so long-term plan. So I'm beating the same drum that we beat often, but beating it in a different place. And I'd just like to say we've had a very good collaborative working relationship with council, representatives, engineering staff, and all involved, and including NZTA in that. So here to beat the drum, not to pump the table for such, but it was interesting following on from our last speaker in that respect. Next slide. Your Port Tarakoe is going off. I don't know if many of you frequent that area, but there are muscle boats from 4 a.m. 5 days a week at least, every 5 days. Every 5 days, the tonnage is going up. Stantec's report forecast another 2,500 truck movements to the port when things expand to capacity. You can see that tugboat there, and if you look closely, there's a mountain of rock and Solars quarry trucks coming from the other side of the bay. There's also the local Tarakoe quarry. There's a lot of activity there. There's a boat club, there's a farmer club, there's a motor caravan association, there's fishing, recreational, boat launching, holiday makers, walkers, cyclists, you name it, population growth in the eastern Golden Bay. So just want to make the point that it's not a quiet little corner. The place is getting busier and busier. Anyone who's been there for any number of years will see that. And the thought of 2,500 more vehicles on the road, heavy traffic, is quite daunting. Next slide, please. Don't forget the penguins. Don't forget the penguins. Fortunately, the ones out on the moles are doing very well. I think the genes that are located in the cliffs have been dropped out. I haven't seen before. So risk to all road users. This is the type of traffic we're talking about, not to mention full-size Solars truck and trailer units carrying probably 30 plus tonnes. That vehicle's got its tyres virtually on both white lines. You can see there's not much room on the left for anything. And recently we had a serious accident where a woman left the road very close to here, 3 or 4 metres down onto hard rock, and she was able to get out. The tide had been in, and no one saw her would have drowned, and that would be very likely for a car accident there too. The other options in front of the truck or hit the cliff. And there's not much room, and I'd just like to say that most drivers are very good, including all the heavy traffic operators, but mistakes do happen. They do happen, and we need to mitigate the result when those mistakes happen. And bear in mind that Abel Tasman Drive is one of 2 arterial routes in Golden Bay. We've got State Highway 60 to Collingwood, which has been constantly improved, and we've got Abel Tasman Drive going east for a major population area through to New Zealand's most visited national park and a standing town of Totaramu through the summer. And so it's an arterial route. So the risks are there. Okay, second point. We believe there have been planning deficiencies in the consenting process around port development and also other consented works such as Helen's Chiller. Now, Kim's familiar with this. We've been chasing council through OIA requests, and there's different views on the subject, everything from case law to moral obligation and interpretations of the OMA. But Our point of view is that consented work needs to consider the cumulative impact of that work and also its zone of impact. And it appears to us that in the port development, the consenting process has been completely run to the port itself. And the Tully's chiller consenting appears to be the same, even though the zone of impact is colossal on the highway and the intersections, and the cumulative impact is quite substantial. Now, I realise that there's other points of view around RMA, and the port is a consented activity for that zone, so it may well be argued that, you know, that work can just happen as per consent. However, beyond that, there's a moral obligation as well. I mean, it's more difficult ground, but it's probably ground that everyone would acknowledge. Some things need to be based upon, and I appreciated your question to our last presenter, Chris. What role does you know, a large commercial entity have in supporting the community that they place impacts on and they draw resources from? So it does go beyond the cut and thrust of simple complex RMA law. So yeah, to quote Stantec's report, which was done in 2019 for the council, they stated clearly that the proposed development of the port will produce higher volumes with multiple conflict points between pedestrians, cyclists, cars and trucks that have no separation from each other. And they also go on to say that, the council has implemented the first part of the report, but they haven't engaged with how safety improvements can be made so that all road users, including cyclists and pedestrians, are catered to. This may mean a footpath or cycle lane to be installed on every passage. So none of that has been addressed. Things have been ring-fenced around the projects and no consideration of the cumulative effects or the zone of impact. It has been said that it's too hard. And that's what I'd like to come to next. That we believe it is possible to create a good, safe outcome for all road users. Just to illustrate the additional types, yes, to say that these vehicles here also have their tyres on the white line of the road, and there's often dozens of people using this rock climbing area, walking, cycling, fishing, getting all manner of seaweed and things, you know, right through to the Abel Tasman Memorial. It's not a quiet piece of road. Next slide. So what we have done, I sympathise with council staff and engineering and planning. Everyone's caught between a rock and a hard place financially and due to all sorts of reasons. And that's where I think we need to take a collaborative approach and find outcomes that are solution-based rather than antagonistic. And we've commissioned a survey of that road corridor to examine the possibilities of a 2 metre separated path, separated half a metre from the edge of the carriageway. And we've quantified the distance, which is somewhere in the order of 900 metres, and also the amount of structure required, somewhere between 200 and 300, which would be a cantilever structure. But a lot of the work can be achieved in the type that's illustrated in this picture here, which in itself is road stabilisation. We could call it maintenance. It could be called extension shoulder, but approached properly, that sort of thing can provide a perfectly usable space. I spend a lot of time biking through there and look constantly at the shoulder and think, easy, build or excavate, you know, and it's not an insurmountable problem. So we've presented that to engineering staff, but obviously they need directive from council and budget holders to actually work on this type of solution. And it doesn't need to be the one solution to rule them all. It can be done in an incremental way, such as shoulder widening, creating passing little lay-bys, which are safety refuges for pedestrians and cyclists when you get 2 large trucks or any vehicle passing. And it can be an incremental process which needn't cross the earth and paves the way to future development of of a full solution. Right, yeah, next slide. Sorry. Yeah, as you can see, these slides indicate the amount of room that is actually available. There'll be some rock removal required, but bearing in mind that that road was carbon blasted through rock anyway, it's a minimal amount, and debris from that can be used for retaining. So we believe there's a really good solution there which could fit in aspects of road maintenance rather than capital work. There might be a number of approaches to it on the short hand.
I'll just ask a question. So you are talking about doing something incrementally, but doesn't that means that cyclists that are going the other way wouldn't be able to use those incremental bits until the whole thing is done? See what I mean? So the people who are actually going west on the inside, and they would have to stay there until a cycle walkway was completed, because they can't cross back and forth. So I
That's
just
right.
wondered if you have an approach to that, or how you actually see transitioning the cyclists from the inside to a safe, secret cycleway.
Well, I guess I'm presenting a sort of option first rather than going for the perfect $1 million solution that doesn't have a line.
No, so that option will only be useful to people coming east-west.
Yes, it would. There are a lot of pedestrians too. Like we're thinking of pedestrians, not just cyclists.
Okay.
And there, as you would know, there are people parked there. There's a big rock climbing fraternity. There's people special, etc. So making the extending the seaward shoulder is really the only place to expand. And bearing in mind, if it's done at road level, it does provide a usable traffic shoulder to two vehicles are passing. Yeah, because the risk of head-on collision is there, and incidents are occurring all the time. And there's nowhere to go at the moment.
So that's my other question is, I've heard it said that the safest place, given this current situation, is for cyclists to ride right in the middle of the lane, so that in certain places, so that the trucks behind them have to actually, slow down and not pass them.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And as a cyclist, you would do that. Not everyone's confident to hold up traffic behind them. I mean, I'll certainly control over taking traffic if I'm biking there because I've had enough strikes, but children might do that. They'll get in the gutter and fall off, and it's
so
dangerous.
it's not a recommendation that you make now at this point.
Well, this is sort of getting into traffic engineering. I mean, the chevrons that are marked on roads for cyclists, like in Motueka, they state that cyclists occupy the traffic lane at that point. I mean, you could take that view here, but it's a traffic engineering and speed limiting issue, which is another avenue to look at. But personally, I wouldn't just want that band-aid. I'd like to see a lot more in provision for a shared pathway on the seaward side. So, I mean, a widened shoulder does provide safety for motor vehicles too. In the event of, there's places on this road where the white line is printed in grass, and in that grass there's a chasm going straight. You drop a wheel over there in a car, and you're probably going to be in the ground, let alone the trailer of a large truck. If they meet an oncoming vehicle and their trailer unit, goes over that white line, well, it's probably going to roll. So, there's potential for quite nasty outcomes, and particularly given the projected increase in traffic volume. I mean, TDC will have the tonnage recorded of what's going across that wharf, and every kilo that goes over that wharf goes on Mabel Tasman Drive somewhere. So, it's a lot of traffic. Yeah, so we think it has a soft start solution, which would be put into the maintenance. I know everything comes down to dollars. There may be a way to angle it into road maintenance and get really good safety outcomes for vulnerable users as well as motor vehicles. But we also think we need to plan and budget for a long-term solution. Next one, that's right. but it's lots of. So, yeah, in that sense, I quite like the concept of don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Rather than shooting for $1 million, let's start with what we can do for a couple of $100,000. Yeah, well, you're having trouble there, it doesn't matter. So, what I'd like to do is sell you the vision of what's the potential is there. And we've got a wonderful shared pathway from Polhara past the Van Rotunda. It's been extended to Polhara Valley. Not necessarily that quality of footprint the whole way, but a promenade that would take us from Polhara Valley past the port, which is a dynamic, interesting place, and beyond that to the Able Paz Memorial, which is a national memorial. It's quite significant. And then down the other side, where there's an existing usage path to Liga Bay, and the civic outcomes, the quality of that as a community asset will be really high. So we'll get a lot of use. It already does. There are people walking, cycling, running, whatever you like to name it, all along that route as well as using. So I hope that you can see that vision of potential in that corridor there. You know, there's scope for little lay-bys and have seats beside the ocean. There's plenty that can be done, and then there's a big open space that you can see there at Tarakoi. And ports are community focuses at many levels, not just industry levels. So, yeah, so my final point at this stage is we would like to request of the board that the board promotes to council the need to address road corridor safety issues between Polhara Valley and Liga Bay, especially the risk of vulnerable road users, which are being heightened by the port development. So two aspects to that. We would like to promote an immediate mitigation measures where possible, such as shoulder widening and creating a safety laybys which would be usable by pedestrians, cyclists and motor vehicles as required. And then thirdly, commit to the long-term provision of a full separate shared pathway, which would be budgeted for in the long-term plan and set in motion.
But just in relation to speed limits, because in the absence of any improvements, the speed limit is something that can be changed. So it's hard to fit this road into the NZTA definitions, because the more arterial it is, the more, and if you look trying to fit it into the boxes, the more it becomes priority to have a higher speed limit, because you know it is an arterial road. So at the moment, the lowest that can category it can be fitted into, the lowest speed limit is 50, and that is our consultation at the moment. You may not be aware of that, but you know, as you know, Chris and I tried really hard to get it to 40, and we just won't fit. So I think that should be, you know, it's 40, 50, which is
I appreciate it. Yes, but changing the speed limits is a good idea. A lot of traffic only goes forward anyway, so there may be no material change. But it might look like a good solution, but I think we have to.
Thank you. A couple of points. One is some of the wooden barriers by the Van Rotunda have not been put back after the cycle lane. There has been a service request put in for that, so they'll make that a bit safe again. What I really want to make important is there's a coastal management plan which I believe we would be have our hands tied a little bit to around consenting of any build-up of rocks around that coastal region or any work that's done right on the coast. So I don't know quite where we sit with that. It might Mr. Drummond might have a little bit more understanding of how that fits with being able to do any work around that edge.
So my comment on that one is that that's the New Zealand Coastal Policy Statement here talking about.
Yeah.
So that is quite challenging.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the regulatory environment it creates for any modification to the area that's close to the coast. And that's, I think the government's on a view that these things need to be repackaged. So it's under review at the moment, but it's quite clear that work around the coastal margin is presents a difficult regulatory challenge to get through, and those consent folk that are sitting behind that's what they have to confront when they run their consenting processes.
So we would have to run that, if we wanted to do that, we would have to go through that consent. I mean, it was hard enough getting rocks outside Packleway, and that's been an ongoing issue. This would be a similar most.
Yeah, same sort of magnitude, if not,
If not bigger, yeah.
Well, it doesn't seem to stop numerous places of rock wall construction there to maintain the highway. And, in road corridors, there are exemptions about earthwork volumes and nature of work required just to keep the roads open. So when there's at least half a dozen major rock wall reclamation examples there, which have provided a wonderful shoulder, and without them, we're going to lose the road anyway. So, there's ways and means of approaching things. It's
Yeah, I might go to Chris for one last question, then we'll start pulling it together.
I was spoken quite strongly about this at council, and not against staff at all, but there was a response to me around, well, it's difficult and expensive and money. So, and I made the point that actually somebody's the worst happens, council around us, and Jamie undertook to work with the society and try and find ways to. I mean, I guess I was emphasising we got to do whatever we can. If we can't do the great thing we'd love to do, then we need to better patch up where we can and improve it in small ways, which is what you're suggesting. I was also concerned about, signage. So I've been told, well, there's signage there already, but actually, I just think the signage isn't that great. We've got the little mural type one, but it's actually really dirty and it's hard to even notice it in the sort of background of the bush. And I thought a sign that said something really strong, like wouldn't even need to be as big as the penguin one, but which is enormous, isn't it? But how do it anyway? To say narrow, dangerous road. Be cautious with cyclists. Anything, Anyway, I've been told that it wouldn't make much difference if people but I think having something strongly that's really clear and new could be something that alerts people to slow down. But my question is, how's it going working with staff around finding the things that can be done?
Staff are very interested and supportive, but it comes down to finance essentially. As always, when council does, staff and do what they can, but we're all constrained at many levels, whether it's regulatory or financial or complexity or whatever. It's interesting hearing from our last speaker. Other avenues of finance, perhaps, other sharing of responsibility, of cumulative impacts of activities, and making avenues of this. Personally, signage and speed limits, I don't think are the solution because things still happen. We still get two trucks meeting each other. I think we need to actually do work on that.
Yes, we do. We absolutely do. And I guess we're thinking of the things that things that can happen that help to alert people to actually. Don't try and pass the cyclist.
No, that's right.
Don't pass cyclists.
Yeah.
That might help. I don't know. I think there's some people are great, and others really aren't.
Yeah, most are, but things go wrong too.
Were there any other points or requests that you wanted to make, Richard, before?
No, that's me. Thank you very much. I've just emphasise that final point that in some form we may want to work with you and develop if you go away and say,
Fantastic.
well, we support this request to elevate the issue to council.
Yeah.
Happy to work with you in terms of sorting out the wording of the contract.
Fantastic.
Thanks
Thanks so much for your time today. Quarter past 2. Is everyone happy with the text I'll go through? Right. Shannon. Dogs. Dogs.
So having, I'm sharing Dream and we're going to report team meetings.
There we go.
So I'm just speaking today as a presentation to the dog control responsibilities and more about what is within scope for us and what isn't within scope for us. And there's more of a clarity, but it's spread the knowledge and it shows some things we can work on as well. The next slide, this one. So what I'm going to cover now is the council's responsibility, staff's responsibility under the DCA Dog Control Act, as well as the bylaw that developed after the Dog Control Act. What we can do, as well as what we can't do, and also the partner organisations we work with, and the sort of possibility of the area. And then the last slide of this developed. So the legal framework we work under is the Dog Control Act 1996, the Dog Control Policy and Bylaw. Everything we do in the space of animal control, dog control is done under these two documents and is funded by the registration of these. And that's a closed office. We can't spend that money on anything else. What it does mean is that what it does mean is that when it comes to a lot of our activities, we're quite constrained into making sure it stays within the scope of dog control. And it's all, there's section 9, I believe, of the Dog Control Act tells you what we can spend our money. Next slide. So what we can do is dog control enforcement. This is when we patrol and monitor public areas, select complaints and incidents, measure infringement and those are not compliant on the Act of bylaw, as well as education. We do a lot of community education. We work on a couple of different programs that want to be more engaging, more in the areas where we have problems at the moment. Yes, we've got some education programs being developed for areas like Wajutai, Parapara, where we've got either legacy bylaw stuff going on that isn't well articulated, or we've got new bylaw changes that we would like to see educated, particularly Wajutai that was straight back to the shoreline from history, as well as Parapara show left over the car park, it's going to go right over the car park. And this side of the we're going to do some sketch for them. And it's going to be on site at those locations as well. And we also support dog owners, so we help with registrations. We return dogs to owners when they're escaped or lost. We also help with designating walking areas and living areas, ensuring that they are under control as opposed to can't do with the dog control budget. We can't do bird protection. We can't do wildlife management. the Industry Council just, we don't manage wildlife and food conservation. Actively, we can do education programs for the town actively. So then those responsibilities fall to the wildlife conservation. And vehicle enforcement on beaches. This has been the subject. We can't regulate vehicles on beaches. LTA, Land Transport Act. Roads is defined as a street, motorway, and a beach. Not a good definition, but it's there. So you know, it does make it difficult. And we also, you know, beyond the scope of the dog control,
Somebody's through the chair, if somebody's running their dog behind a ute on a beach and it's going through a certain restricted area, we can do something about that, not the vehicle, but the dog.
themselves. Yeah, the dog's in a restricted area or prohibited area, absolutely about that. Because the dog is in breach, we get the vet to not dog. So that's we do enforce that.
We do a little bit of that beaches.
Yes, yeah.
So in terms of just through the chair, it's quite a tricky situation, isn't it, with the Department of Conservation and Council. And so the Department of Conservation is directly responsible for the welfare of wildlife. Council has obligations under coastal policy statement for wildlife, but it's not a direct responsibility. So that's really what you're trying to say.
Yeah, and it's not saying that we absolutely won't. It's not our responsibility, but we will help where we can. We work closely with DOC, and with our education and with our enforcement, we're respectful, and they work closely with us. So there may have a case where there's been a dog attack on wildlife and they haven't taken it to court. They'll work closely with us on that.
And it's their responsibility to do that.
Because it's their legislation that yes.
Yeah, just a question about, second question about the benefits. Have we got benefits in train? Are they actually being?
We do them every year, so we've done that another lot of it, which is
Right. So, will they won't actually have the bylaw, the places on, will they? Are they just a general?
It's a general responsibilities as well as the information
Right.
Information on that as well.
Right. So
we don't have the bylaws are quite a big piece of information on them.
So in terms of having a pamphlet specifically for beach walking for dogs, is there a possibility that it would be included in the pamphlet, or could we do a pamphlet, or could there be a working with other organisations to do a pamphlet about managing your dog on the beach? I'm thinking we have a lot of holiday makers that we take their dogs to the beach and they don't actually know what the benefit.
And that's what we want to target with the education. So we actually want to be on the side that we've got other people that might not know about it, and educate them where those problems are and when they're but it is, more information. Stuff like that.
Yeah,
work with other organizations.
so they share the beach.
Yeah. I think there's a dog podcast. We have been working closely with DOC for the commercial exercise, but there's some signage there. We administer the bylaw in that area. They've got a lot of time there. We're just been working with them on the budget for this. So that's because of the final organization we work with, which is Department of Conservation, which is kind of a lot of that. It's their primary responsibility to work under the conservation wildlife protection, especially since the ecosystems like over here. We also work with the police for vehicle enforcement. We can work on the council has delegations for stationary vehicle offences, but it's quite constrained. Police have got a lot more breaches, especially road people. And then local groups, conservation groups and stuff that are around the area. We try to work closely with those groups as well, keeping them straight with what we can. The new science that we've developed. So just then we've worked with a doc to get their feedback on these, as well as we've looked at what other councils around the area using. Christchurch already use a traffic light system, I believe Malta do as well. Quite a few councils around the places to a more consistent approach because outside of our district, we get the same sort of standard. This is we've made it clear, we've made them bright. We've moved away from the white and blue standard template of council and more into a traffic light system, obviously, but it's also taken away from the info ports. We're still going to do info ports where there is a requirement for places like Rototai where it's confusing. And if we've got lots of signs up everywhere where can and can't go, that we can put. So an info board and place it on a map which shows we can and can't go here. We believe is still incredibly valuable. There's a lot of places that have info boards where you could just be on this point. So that's what we've developed these signs for. The signs have a QR code on them. We've copied the QR code on the screen. That's now the website's live and updated ready with the new dog bylaw map that we've developed alongside the bylaw. That's fully integrated like a Google Map effectively, and you can pin the GPS location to us to show you exactly where you are and what's there. Your current location.
So in relation to the maps, through the chair, are you going to have a dot that says you are here? You know, if you've got a sign which has got a diagram of where you allowed or not allowed to take the dog or a fish or whatever, having a dot which says you are here, because sometimes people don't know where they in relation to the map. So
we've got that feedback.
You've got that feedback.
So there's so the new signs we're developing, the info board signs we will develop to use one.
Right.
Do have a UID dot.
Cool. That's
it's a handy dot.
It is a handy dot. There's places like we'll go back to the example I used earlier. Parapara, we've got dual signs at the moment. The one side says dog prohibited, the other side says under control, and it's one sign that's got both signs. Don't take the dogs that week. And that's, I believe that's more impactful, especially that black colour than having big A1 info board. But then there's places like Rototai where there's so there's a requirement for those info boards if you like your dog.
One of the lesser known committees of council is the animal control system. And it's unpleasant work we do there usually. But you might want to leave a board there this time just about the function of that committee perhaps. And I just noticed on the community Facebook page last day someone very distressed about a roaming dog getting the chicken house with chickens, and then I don't know, there's maybe 90 comments on there of a bunch of other people saying, oh yeah, a roaming dog has shown place quite a lot, and our chickens and something else and a cat, and I think this and people on there were saying, make reports to council. It might be that this dog in a certain area, people sort of know maybe what's happening. There's one dog that's affecting a few properties, but maybe just what people can do if that's the case. If there's a roaming dog And people don't know who the dog is, haven't seen it, you know. But also just something about the animal control subcommittee, and that's one of the roles that you hold as supporting that.
Yes, so we'll start with the roaming dog situation. Every incident we receive, we just, that they don't require them to be lodged. So, we strongly recommend that the tally ones, when we become aware of it, if there's an incident, we counsel them, because we investigate all of them, we can identify the dog and go on record, and we can get a history of it. There have been a couple of instances recently, three or 4 times, both times. It's difficult for us to take action when we've only got one incident. We've got 7 incidents for dog one. That's very difficult. Definitely let us know so we can investigate, take action. In relation to the Animal Control Subcommittee, when under the Dog Control Act, we can take a multitude of sort of actions under that, ranging from warning letters, infringements, classifications of the dog as a menace or a dangerous dog. They impose different requirements on the dog owner, as well as owner classifications prohibited and disqualified. The classifications, the infringements go to EIJ for appeal, but the classifications will be appealed by the classification of the dog. That appeal process goes to the Animal Control Subcommittee.
Let's see a role. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that appeal process is by the committee, and then some of those specifications also are finalised by the committee and can't go on further. And some of them can be then challenged to go further through the courts. Work, but in short, menacing classifications, which is Muslim classification, now asked by the public. When it's objected, it's heard by the Animal Control Subcommittee, and the decision they make is they rescind their uphold. Anything higher than that being dangerous dog classification, which is ignoring muzzling, bucking requirements, and leash requirement, and an increase in registration fees. That really can be appealed. That goes to the committee, the Animal Control Subcommittee, and then that decision can then be objected to district court. And the prohibitions and disqualifications of items both the heard by the committee moved into court.
Always in response to a dog attacking another animal or person. So as soon as a dog attacks like that, there's an immediate, under the Dog Control Act, there's an immediate classification of illness and dog. There's an immediate classification.
Yes. So the classification is what makes the recommendation, well, not recommendation, what makes the category of classification changes dramatically depending on classification. From menacing classification, the territorial authority just needs to have a reasonable belief that the dog is committing an offence, and that's enough to get a classification, or the TA must classify any dog as Schedule 4. So Schedule 4 being a list of dogs that is considered banned for impounding, and we just classification straight away. Being American Football Terriers, a terrible process or something like that as well.
They're quite.
But they have to be classified under the Act. We don't have a choice in that. Though, because it's a classification made under the Act, it can be appealed. Yeah. The dangerous classification requires an affidavit of a witness statement saying that it can happen, or the owner written in writing that the dog is dangerous. Yeah. And in relation to disqualification, that can be done in court by counsel if the owner receives 3 infringements on a separate occasion for 3 different offences within 24 months. So don't believe disqualification is warranted. From just for 2 years, you can't have more dogs in the area. And disqualification up to 5 years, no dogs. You can't have more dogs.
Complex area for the 12,000 odd dogs in Brisbane. Oh. Extraordinary, isn't it?
Any other questions for Shannon? Lovely, thank you so much, Shannon. Appreciate you coming over and talking to us all.
Yeah.
2:35, I think we should have a quick 10-minute comfort stop, brain refresh, wiggle around in our seat. Yeah, back in 10.
Let's meet. I'm
Okay.
here in case somebody had any questions. Oh, okay. So, Debbie, Les needs to go.
Oh, okay.
So I'm here.
Tardy. So we have, where are we? Discretionary fund applications. So 5 applications have been received for the May funding. We have the Mohua Time Inc, Collingwood Tennis Club, Golden Bay Animal Welfare, the Family Start, and Golden Bay Arts Council. So I know that Mohua Time Bank have been waiting patiently to talk. So welcome, guys. You wanted to present to your request.
The dashboard. I'm Dimitri, this is Kappa. We are representing Mohua Time Bank. We've been working on it for I reckon over half a year and building some bonds and foundation. And I'm curious, as many of you know what Time Bank is, basic concept.
I do now that I've read all your information. Thank you.
That's quite a bit of a read.
Yeah.
But basically, it's an exchange system where it allows people to trade hour for hour, and it's basically ultimately to create more connection community. So you can know your neighbors, you can go do fun things with them. So it's more of a connection rather than any alternative economics or something against the dollar. No, it's more to bring people together.
And that's sort of one of the things that underlies the project is like wanting to address a lot of the social issues that are faced in general in New Zealand, in Golden Bay, and the rural community. So a lot of what we're aiming to create with this Time Bank community and Time Bank initiative is that there will be an exchange that can address social isolation, that can address the high costs of living and the stress and pressures and not being able to meet certain needs. And again, like strengthening the community in general. Because with a system of exchange where people are having to talk to each other and having to ask for what they need and also receive what they need and offer what they can, with like sort of building on a lot of ways that our systems work a while ago that we've lost a little bit over time. So that's sort of like really looking at that social infrastructure. How do we create more opportunities?
And how do you plan on addressing the difficulties some of our community may face with asking for help?
I think a lot of that would come down to creating those opportunities, inviting people to come and be part of it. So in order for people to participate in the Time Bank, we sort of have a staggered approach where they can first just come to information and find out more about it. They can ask questions to any of the team about what they need, and then there's sort of markets that they can be involved in, even stay on the periphery. And then there's like community meals and community engagement evenings, so you can meet other people. I think it's important to meet the people where they're at. So if there are people that are interested but cannot just fully be in there, I can offer this and that, it's sort of like being able to notice and just encourage participation to whatever degree people can.
So what difference is this to what we have had for many years of the hands held out green dollar thing? What difference? Because
there's a few actually. I mean, one that's we trying to isolate mean and don't count things in dollars and don't attach things to dollars. We're rather saying that it's time that is what's valuable to us. Also how it is distributed. So while the hands is going around zero, like when you have credit and debit, and you can ultimately go into minus in order to get some kind of cash, hard cash, and then use it. Here we are wanting to distribute the vouchers, so it's going to be still paper voucher system. Vouchers through volunteer projects. So like when, let's say, community gardens needs lots of hands to collect a lot of apples, preserve them, to raise some money, or so that's
that's what people do. They will go to this event. They have some fun collecting those apples with other fellows from Time Bank, and they will receive those vouchers. And we will also be looking for obviously other volunteer projects that are possible with Golden Bay. So there's a kind of getting to Birds with Fun Stone. We supporting this volunteering culture, and we also creating this vision.
Through the chair. When they, just to try and follow this through, so the scenario of the community gardens, the apples, making chutney or jam or whatever, and then being given a paper voucher. What then do they do with that?
Then they can circulate those vouchers amongst each other, like
So-
hands used to.
So if I have the voucher being there, what will that? So I can get.
I can give you an example. So we're going to have a platform, online platform, where people can put on there what their offers are. So if you had 2 hours, a 2-hour voucher, you could go on the Telegram portal and see, oh, someone's offering gardening, someone's offering to fix my bike, or a bike. And you could say, actually, I need an hour of gardening and I need someone to fix my bike. So you can, for 2 hours, contact those people.
Now I understand.
In exchange for that. And in the same way, other than participating in the project, you can also say, oh, I'm happy to knit someone a jumper for winter, and it's going to take this many hours, so you're offering that service that someone else can give you voucher for.
Right, and then you get vouchers to get stuff. Get up to that.
You could come and do my gardens. And with your vouchers, you can buy a drum from Grant.
Yeah.
So
So you'd be in charge of the voucher creation.
Correct.
So you just create as many.
No, we at this stage we wanna limit it to from 20 to 40 hours per person that joins. So it's limited by amount of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that doesn't make sense.
But do you know if it's working anywhere?
Time Bank, not in this particular shape and form, but the time banks are pretty popular in New Zealand. There's a Little Time Bank, there's Wellington Time Bank, Otago, Tauranga.
There's about 25 time banks in New Zealand now. And some of them have received quite a lot of support from councils because it works alongside some, a lot of that social cohesion initiative, and it's not against any economic aims. And also just to add, like in Littleton, the time bank is a key factor after the earthquakes to actually get the community through. So people were able to swap time and give and take when there was a lot of distress. So it's proven to increase community resilience nationally, locally.
One thing I'm struck by is just how much money you're looking at for the whole budget to set this up. It's a lot of money.
Lot of wages.
Something seems, I don't know, just to me, it's like top heavy in that way. So I just had a concern, but noticing that, and the amount of money that was attributed to, the education events and so I don't know what other sources you're looking at to get, $500 for carers,
That's the observation is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
We are also currently in contact with Blair Carpenter. He will help us to put the application for July for lottery, as well as we under Mako 2022, and we looking away how we're gonna also apply to our applicants to go under one application.
Yeah.
So that's going to be 2 big funders. And I understand, like, unfortunately, the reality of things that, the initiative that benefit community doesn't pay the wages. And that's very unfortunate because, there's lots of good things that, lots of volunteer organization want to bring, but it's all you know, literally fueled by volunteer work, and
Yeah.
we already put like, significant amount of hours of our hours that's not going to be paid into, you know, creating the bare bones, and will be, you know, more to come. And yeah, it's some sort of a reality that we're facing, but at the same time, you know, we want those hours to be paid. We will put those hours in.
Yeah.
It's some sort of a reality of
Yeah.
volunteer job work and like charitable
Yes.
things.
I understand. It just looked quite top heavy for the amount of what might be going on. Anyway, if you get any feedback from some of the big funders around, you know, it looked to me like there were ways that you could just reduce perhaps the educational sessions, and because there's a lot of them. But you know, great idea. I think it would really suit Golden Bay. I'm very supportive of what you're doing and appreciate your innovation and bringing it here.
Can I just speak to that as well in terms of the funding? It is top heavy in the sense of like, this is what we envision it will take initially. So it is like, we created a 3-year plan with the hopes that in 3 years, we obviously won't be doing as much as we are now. But we're needing to have the momentum initially to keep it going and to build it up until it hits the plateau where it's known people are know about it, groups are coming to us for volunteer projects. So it's needing a lot of initial fuel. But then the idea is that we could have membership donation, that we could have other streams of income where people are seeing without being to contribute rather than externally sourcing. So we've sort of thought about that and put it into a 3-year plan where we're needing that startup support.
And an advantage of coming along and presenting here to community board is there's a couple of media people, right? Very good ones, both of them. You know, who you know, so you get a kick straight away if they've got forethought what you're coming with them. You know, those ways that you can, in Golden Bay particularly, I think there are ways to let people know about the range of ways that work in Golden Bay. Thank you. Thank you.
The main reason why Hands fell over was there was no admin. Basically, it died, and so to actually have that momentum to really kind of put the time and effort into it, even though it was like 20 years old,
That was good.
yeah, but it still needed the admin, and that's what it. And when that stopped, that's when Hands fell over. The admin, it was. I'm not going to go into it in detail, but that's basically what happened to it. So it still exists in theory. People have probably still got vouchers. You know, they're a bit useless now. But
I did a bit of counselling for Hands. It was great.
right, exactly. I traded it off and on with it too. I think it's a great concept. It's not much different in some ways than what what Hands were.
I'm just going to pass over to Robert for one last question.
Yeah, I was just curious. So there's 25 throughout New Zealand, but you're having to develop the software for this particular one. Are there other 25 using some software itself, or is there a potential that you might be able to use the developed software to support the other 25?
Yes. The second one is more of an intention. So I think a couple of years ago there was research by one of the people in Golden Bay who went to the time banks and did research exactly about software fees, and that was, you know, one of the fallbacks, that there's no actual decent piece of software that allows to track the transaction, to have some fees, some sort of a storage for, not storage, but catalog of offerings and requests and all of that. I myself have a background as a software developer, and I'm trying to, you know, do things as, you know, as low tech as possible in this scenario, and that's why we're going with paper vouchers, and that's why we're going with, you know, in this scenario, the Telegram, which is just the chat app. Developing in this scenario, going to be developing some bots that will allow people to search things easier in a, you know, you can just literally add, who can do gardening for me, and it spits out you like this. Yeah, the possible options that we found in the chat. So that's the piece that I was thinking of developing. Yeah, and hopefully that can be adapted in other time banks, but so far there's a bit of a, either those solutions can be very clunky and not really usable, and that's why people not engaging with them. That's usually the biggest goal point for all the time banks. People don't want to do the software. Yeah.
The hands had a software that was set up in some part of a bigger network, an international network, and it was all run out of South Africa.
Cool. Oh, well, thank you very much for coming along and
Thank you very
presenting and answering our questions. Very interesting. Thank you. Okay.
Good luck.
Do we want to go through them all and then decide, or we want to go through one by one and decide? Discuss as we go.
I just had a quick word with police
Oh, yes.
at the break. Give you the official.
Yes, please.
So I raised the question with her about the kitten bill, and she said that they're only good to sick. So apparently kittens can't digest, lactose, which milk is lactose. So, well, sick kittens say that that's kitten milk. And there is a degree of frustration about D60. Yeah. So
people
about the low uptake.
Really? I'm so really surprised by that.
Well, yeah, so it's just a shame she had to go, but she
I'm
said,
surprised. Are people, well, I wonder what the barriers are to use people using it. Are they feeling like they don't deserve it, or they feel
got the
guilty for using
impression
the
that
fund?
they were just not together enough.
Lordy. I mean, I
And they don't realise how soon kittens get pregnant.
Oh, yeah, and how quick again after their first litter.
Yes, they don't realise how soon that can be 3-4 months.
Have to go. Sorry, Chris. Thank you.
I do need to go.
Did you want to input on Time Bank?
Pardon?
Did you want to input on Time Bank?
Well, I would just
Or
say
any
that
of them?
I'd say that I support the Time Bank. It's a tiny amount of money for their $94,000, but I think it's the principle of the matter of saying yes. Colwood Tennis Club, absolutely, and I see in the report they talk about being part of a camping ground. It's a separate bit of land that they own. It's not. So definitely for Family Start and Arts Council, and with the cats. So difficult to say it out loud, and I hope Joe doesn't quote me on this.
Say it.
But what we'll be doing is supporting. Put your pen down. Just all these wild and field.
I know, you're just creating more kittens.
And they go
make more kittens.
Birds.
Yes, and kill the birds.
Well, they mute them, don't they? But they killing birds,
Well, they
skunks
do
and
use it,
lizards and
that's
things.
true.
It's like I just don't know that that's the business of the board to be supporting that aspect of it.
Especially a cat mobile.
Thank you.
Go well. Put it out of your mind. Because I ended in my mind.
It's all right. I said that, but before Joe got here. Okay, thank you, Chris. All right. Okay. So, are there any that we are discussing? I mean, I think everyone's probably on the same page with the tennis club.
Well,
there is this. Sorry.
One something about the tennis club.
Oh, yep, that's right. We might have Raw Needland come to that. There is a slight issue with the Family Start. Is that correct, Ryan? With the what did you not more of an issue, but it doesn't. Yeah,
That'll be a special exception because.
Yeah, we would have to. The Family Start doesn't meet the policy requirements, so we'd have to make an exception if we wanted to fund them. It's mostly operational costs that they're asking us to cover, and we don't cover those.
Right.
So we've never covered wages, we've never covered costs like that.
Being specific, we did read.
Yeah, they were petrol, which we could almost sort of, yeah.
given that they have to apply this time, because they're
Yeah.
government funded.
Yeah.
Maybe some guidance.
I would, I mean, my gut, if we're having to choose, if we didn't want to do all 5, I'd go them over time bank and kittens.
Sorry,
I'd choose them over kittens and time bank if we had to.
How much is in our kitty and how much, and this is the beginning of the year, isn't it? Financial year, how much have we got in there?
We're not at the beginning. Yeah, the beginning is the 1st of July.
Oh, that's right, so
So
we're near the end.
we're using up the funding. that
Yeah,
we've
so we
got.
could.
Yeah.
so Robert, what would be the way through this in terms of the application, in terms of what? Because you do this for lots of organisations.
Too, but yeah.
Project, but we can make an exception, can't we?
Yeah.
Under specialised,
There was a-
there'll be a special, we could just say, yeah, we've got the delegation to do it, and just say,
I think we're all on the same page then.
yeah, so family site, yes, golden bayouts, yes.
No, well,
Oh,
got
no,
payouts, I'm only gonna ask, they're not specific about what they're actually wanting the money for at all. They've given us a great big budget.
yeah,
They've given us a whole lot of, what they do and how it's, I know it's for payout, but I'd like to know what specifically what they're gonna use it for, because.
that's good,
again,
I
it
thought
could
I was
be-
just being a bit dopey, because I couldn't figure that out, but then I
'Cause,
thought
yeah,
maybe
well,
I'd missed it, but
They
that's
could be used.
young
for
at art
food
and
or-
bayout.
You know, I'd like to get Gary to actually talk to it if he possibly could.
Did they need it before our next meeting?
No, well, the payout's not until October. So I think, we could probably hold off for a week and really ask him to come in, because I do want a bit more information about it. I went through the budget and it's quite a big budget, but it didn't give me any indication of what they use.
Okay, I do the same, I thought I was just being a bit slow, but I was still happy because we will get them and have the discussion, we'll end up giving it to them anyway, because it'll be for vouchers or prizes and we do it every year, that's their one thing they apply for. So, I mean, I'm happy if you want to get them in and ask questions, but yeah, we can table it till the next meeting.
Yeah,
If you request more info. And I guess too, it's a reminder you need to answer the questions on the forms. You can't just give us a blank. Yeah, no, so it's a valid
Just,
point.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so we'll go back to them and say more info. It's easy. So tennis club, yes.
No, well, tennis club, that's okay, so I'd like to say yes to them, and I think it's a really good,
But
really
we
good
need
thing.
to have the
But
discussion about the
we
playground
need to have
first.
this discussion, because we've been told by Lynn that there's an objector to our playground, for the Packwell playground. There's somebody who has objected to the idea of having a playground. And so I need to know what sort of process we would have to go through and how much it would actually cost us more to get that playground to happen if we pursued it beyond that, because I imagine that we would need to then make it a public consultation.
Can
and
I
it would
just,
cost us more.
can I just offer a solution before we get too far down there? I think we should grant the Collingwood Tennis Club $500 application for the discretionary fund, and then have this discussion, because it's going to require a whole lot more. So I think instead of pulling it here and declining them on the basis we might be able to fund them somewhere else, I think we should just grant it.
Unfortunately, they're not here either.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think we
asking
should-
Questions.
I think we should grant the request and then look at perhaps if the playground falls over, then talking to them instead.
Because that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to talk today.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I'd vote yes for the club. Where are we on kittens? Robert, how do you feel about kittens? I haven't got there yet. No, I'm going to go to the list.
I'll talk about kittens. They are doing a good job of keeping of taking those stray cats and as long as they're sexing them and stuff. Look, we've got a problem, and I don't know if anyone here listens to Radio New Zealand News, but it did go on quite extensively the last few mornings about feral cats in New Zealand and the problem around feral cats. they organisations like this, and they're happening not just in Golden Bay but all over the place in New Zealand, are really working hard to try and counteract that and make sure that companion cats, which they are called, are actually given the opportunity to be a companion cat and differentiating between that. So they obviously they microchip them, they sex them, but you'll say there's not a lot of uptake on that. But
No, so Lise says that we just, Tom and I had a conversation with Lise, and she said that there's a very slow uptake of
Wonder how we can help promote that.
The animal welfare societies
and they
administration.
pay for it, right?
Yeah, they
yeah.
do. It's amazing. I mean, I felt slightly guilty, but
Yeah.
we got.
What's this the difficult position about my question is it really within council's remit to fund animal food, to feed animals? That's my problem.
Maybe we could fund desexing.
Desexing.
I mean, she's asked for that before in the past.
We could say yes. We would like it tagged to desexing. I mean, it's tomatoes, isn't it? You're just going to give them the money and it's going to go into their fund and they're going to use it for.
But I think we should be specific, and I'd be happier with that.
Yeah,
sure.
That's not a bad point about the desexing. Actually, I hadn't really thought about that.
And I think we've got to get an update, maybe in a year or so, as to how they feel the bylaw is progressing.
Yeah. I'm happy with that.
Happy with that. Okay, so it was a God making me out more info. Yes to Family Start. Yes to the cats for the desexing. Yes to Collingwood. Time Bank.
I actually think yes. I was convinced.
I think it's too early. I think they are really doing a good thing, and I think they've got a long way to go. If we just pay them some money now to get the vouchers, and they don't get the funding, which they obviously need to take it further, I think that money's going to be, those vouchers going to be sitting there just doing nothing. So I would like to. It's like putting the cart. They want to put the cart before the horse. Come into us first. So I would like to table it until or decline it or table it until
they get their rate
got their rate or
yeah.
funding.
I agree. Thank you, Grant.
Sometimes they need to leverage that they may need this funding
Well,
to leverage.
We could say that it'll be there if they get this. We could also say that sort of so that they've got a letter to say that funding will be available when they've got their own funding. It's a seed funding.
Decline, but we can offer them a letter. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Oh, that was quicker than I thought.
So I've got Hotel Decline, Contents Club grant.
Yeah.
Rural Welfare Society grant. Family Start grant.
Yeah.
And Community Arts Council with that.
More info.
Okay, so left to line.
Yeah.
So the 10 for anything.
Yeah.
So technically one.
Yeah. And so there's also the request grant. Can I just see an overview for a second?
Yeah, there's a request for the Gombe AMP show to put the money that they got last year into this year, and so they probably won't be applying for any this year. They'll just use the money they got last year. So what does everybody feel? How does everybody feel about that? Rather than giving it back and then reapplying again this year, it's kind of seems a little bit silly. So I'm, Robert.
Yeah, I'm happy with that solution.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. then we'll pass that one. So with what the option was to for them to keep the money and put $500 of that we gave them last year into
Boys and Girls.
Boys and Girls Agriculture Show, number 6.
Yeah.
No, not number 6.
Three. This one. So approves.
Oh, we're up to the committee.
Run it regardless.
It's like the 75th, I think, anniversary too. So. Yeah. I
No,
shall,
that's
I
the
shall
slide.
tell the committee. No, it didn't rain after all. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So all the rest of the attachments are discretionary funds, supporting document, thank you, and accounting documentation. And that's all set from now on. So there's an ongoing running record of
Yep,
them.
no, that's all we need. That's all.
Yeah.
Thank you
Cool.
for that.
Perfect.
So do we need? What do we need? A mover and a seconder. I'm happy to move.
I'll see.
Robert,
You.
seconder. All in favour?
Aye.
Lovely. Scrolling, dear
So
Lord.
will that letter to the Mahua's home bank, will that be something that, is. Has that been noted? Do you write that, Abby?
No, Ro does.
Ro does, okay.
We'll just decline it and offer. We can do
Attach
it together.
Yeah, I
Don't
can
decline it
try
until you attach the letter.
Yeah, I'll draft it and I'll
Yeah.
get feedback from the board.
Okay, board report. So let's pull up, should we pull in? There's just some meeting information there, some info from Chris, just about the the mural he's replacing. He didn't want to share the photo yet. But he will when he's ready.
He's told me about it.
Yeah, he's shown me a quick glimpse and it looks quite cool, so it's good. So the youth mirror updates happened. There's the email from Kim, which we pulled out and popped in there in the environmental reforms. It's a good opportunity for all that space in the board report for any discussions that you might need to have. Yeah, we're actually good. Opportunity consultation. I feel like
That was wrong.
that's, yeah, I think a relaunch, yes, good. And we didn't provide feedback to that. Didn't receive any. So, Lynn, now this is a bit of a tricky one, isn't it, Ro? Because we're being asked to bring receiving information, but some feedback for Lynn to help make a decision. Hi, Lynn.
Hello. So do you want me to lead into this?
Yes, please.
Okay, so clearly the board wished for the playground equipment, which is just 2 pieces of play equipment. It's a swing set and possibly a small climbing tower slide with a slide. To go at the road reserve at Pakowhai. That was all approved by the community board. So I've done a bit of work, so I've been to MKM and asked if they were happy with it to go there. Yes, they are. I've had the archaeologist look at the site, reasonably comfortable with it on if it was disturbed an accidental discovery protocol. And then I sent a letter out to 5 of the neighbours, the immediate neighbours, and only got 1 response, and that was very strongly against the playground based on a number of points. I don't know if you want me to go through them or not. Just, very, very briefly. But I guess it comes down to, do we proceed there? Do we look at another site, or do we abandon this altogether? So generally, when we go out to consultation, one objection doesn't necessarily mean we wouldn't proceed. It is a strong objection, but I think the board needs to make a call as to whether or what they want to do going forward with this.
Did you? Great.
Would we have to go to a public consultation if there is a strong objection to it? Would it cost us in time and staff and our time, as a public consultation if there is a strong objection.
Generally, we don't do a full consultation. We might just consult with the immediate neighbourhood. So I would suggest it didn't go, you know, if we were doing it normally, we wouldn't go beyond Pakawo at all, as opposed to a full-on, you know, submissions, formal submissions and the full consultation process.
So it would still cost us time and energy and money to do that, even.
Yeah, it would absolutely cost time and money and energy. Yeah.
Okay.
I think maybe though it's probably worth doing because it was a pretty strong contender when we did the whole consultation for the projects themselves.
Yeah,
Seems
we-
a shame
we
to
have
shelve
lots
it.
of support from the community from Golden Bay generally. for
Yeah.
that project.
So it would be interesting to drill down to Pakawo
Yeah.
before we can it, because it seems a shame to.
The question I also have is, are the objections, are they able to be mitigated, you know, or worked through, hear what they are perhaps?
So, for instance, no, and I think for the use that the playground will get, it's possibly a little bit over thought, but you know, they say noise, and they suspect, or they fear it would attract people in the evenings with, you know, music, etc. For them, reduce privacy, so potentially we would have to remove some of the vegetation. They're concerned about security with increased people there. You know, it's feeding of seagulls and rodents through rubbish, toileting on council land, parking, and road safety were the issues that were raised. I mean, they're all valid. In terms of mitigation, you know, I mean, many of our reserves don't have toilets, for example. Parking, we would probably look to enable a couple of car parks there. In terms of privacy, we would just have to try and reduce any vegetation that might need to be cleared. So in a way, yes, we can mitigate most of their concerns. And in a way, you know, you have done a consultation when you asked the community what projects they thought were important to the community, and the playground obviously ranked quite highly. So whether that could be considered consultation, potentially yes.
Could we move forward acknowledging the concerns and, as you say, often to mitigate as much as possible?
Well, we could. I just don't know if the neighbours would like an opportunity perhaps to come to the community board and state their concerns in person or not. I'd have to go back to them and ask that question.
So are they direct neighbours, Lynn?
I'd rather not say at this point because I think that narrows it down. But yeah, I didn't go to. As I said, I went to the 5 neighbours that I thought would be most impacted.
What vegetation is there at present?
There are trees and shrubs along both side boundaries, so it does enable a fair bit of privacy for the 2 immediate neighbours, yes.
Are there fences there as well?
There is, from memory, I think just a wire fence on one of the neighbours, and the other neighbours I honestly can't remember.
So that might be upgraded.
That might, but fencing is really expensive. That would add fairly significantly to the overall cost. You know, keeping in mind we've still got to get a resource consent for this because it's within 500 metres of 100 metres of the coastal coastal marine area, so yeah.
And
So
they'll
And
have,
they could object on that
yeah,
resource consent.
yeah, so let's do that.
Okay, all right.
Everyone's
So-
happy with that. They're gonna get a chance to say anyway, because they're directly infected,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so you're happy with that? So I'll go ahead and drill down to the exact equipment that we'll get and that we'd like to get, and then start the resource consent process. So my vision was that consenting progress would be part of your contribution, the board's contribution. Is that, are you happy to go with that?
Mhm. Do we get a discount?
No, I wish we got a discount. Unfortunately, we are just like every other member of the public, Parks and Reserves, and we have to go through the same hoops and high jumps, etc. So unfortunately, no discount, no.
Okay. All right, thank you, Lynn.
So then I've just got one question, is that, so can the actual choice of play equipment, you didn't just mention it, can the
Yeah.
actual choice of play equipment have a role in limiting who is actually going to go and hang out there? Because of that, the concern is that there's going to be people there at night, in the evenings, lack of privacy, security, noise, etc. If there was playground equipment that would not be at all
Conducive to
attractive,
hijinks.
older
Hijinks.
people, you know, you just have
Right,
it.
just fine.
Because I think that the thought when the Residents Association put this forward, the thought was not for older children, the thought was
Under 10.
for very
Under 12,
little
yeah.
kids. Yeah, little kids.
Yeah,
And no
So
hijinks.
that's your target is younger kids.
I
Yeah.
think so, yeah.
So, for instance, just I've looked at a double bay swing set. We put a similar one, well, it won't be that similar in Apatakaka, because what we would use at Pakawo is a wooden cross beam. So we're largely trying to stick to natural stuff. But I can certainly make the swings rather than the 3 meter height, which is more allows or makes it more enjoyable for teenagers and adults, just go to 2.4 meters, so you don't have such a swing arc. So that certainly would target younger kids. The slide set, again, we can go to 1.2 or 1.4 meters for the slide, which again is very much for the younger age group. I was looking at 1.8 meters for the slide, again, just to have us get a slightly wider age group that would use the equipment. But I'm quite flexible on what we might put there.
Well, that could be a mitigation, couldn't it? To have equipment that is really only suitable for small children.
Yep, totally. Absolutely. I know when I met with, and I can't remember her name now, from the Residents Association, they very strongly did want a picnic table at the
That would
beach.
be nice. Yeah, definitely, that would be nice.
But that is when you do start drawing in people that might go and sit there and have a couple of drinks and crank up the music. I mean, to be honest, we've got reserves everywhere. It's not a couple of places that is sort of behaviour is a bit of a problem. I don't really know if it would be there.
Would be terrible, they would know. I can just imagine the headline: picnic table attracts bad behaviour.
Pakawa.
Regardless, I don't need a.
They don't need a picnic table.
It's public land,
Yeah.
you know, it's public land.
Yeah, so we can just go there and do that without anything at the moment, actually, if we wanted to.
With a blanket.
We'll send our teenagers.
But the photo would be two teenagers.
Yeah.
On the picnic table.
Or two drunk 60-year-olds or something, it's
More dangerous than a
I think
teenager.
they would be scared to go there, given, that
Okay.
they'd be very much got neighbours on either side,
Yeah,
So
that's right.
It's not like it's a remote place. It's
No,
not
that's
remote.
right.
no. And it's very open to passing traffic, so yeah.
So my skate park's going to be fully lit.
Yeah.
So Lynn, the other thing was the item the shed removal at Rotatai?
Oh, yes. Just before we move on, so I'll just confirm, so you want me to proceed with younger play equipment and start the resource consent process?
Yes, please.
Yes.
And I'll ask as part of that we consult with the immediate neighbours as part of the consent, because sometimes they slip through, depending on what's required. They some don't necessarily require consultation, but that's okay. So I'll proceed with that. Rotatai, yes. So there was an old, or it was in use, in a radio tower that I believe provided AM radio up the Pahara Valley, and that was annihilated, if you like. The cables were smashed up by a vehicle. That meant that the radio tower itself was bent and buckled, and the owners, Kordia, or I'm not sure if it's Kordia, or it might be NZME, but Kordia managed it on their behalf, had to remove the tower because it was unsafe. So we're just still in the process of removing the wooden barriers that were around the base of the stays that stretched out into the reserve. And then they have come and asked, do we want the shed to be removed? So the whole thing was installed, I believe, by the before the community board came into play, and part of it was funded by the community board. The importance being the AM frequency up the valley, particularly for emergencies or anything like that. So the question is, they say in a way we own the brick shed structure. From a parks and reserves view, we don't really have an interest in it. It'll just be a magnet for vandalism. So does the board have an interest in it? Do you want it retained, or what's your view on it?
How large is it? A few meters by a few meters?
Yeah, probably two to three square, maybe.
It's not much.
No, I think the general feeling around the table, Lynn, is no, thank you.
Yep. All right. We'll get it removed, or they will remove it at their cost. So happy with that.
Brilliant.
Yep.
Thanks so much, Lynn. That's great. Was there anything else from special projects that you needed to update?
Yeah. Because I was wondering more about the builder and the health and safety stuff with the builder for the I haven't heard back from Henry. Henry's not here today. So has that builder got in touch with you?
Not that I'm aware of, no. I think he might have got the preliminary paperwork, but it's quite complex, the whole process. I don't, as far as I'm aware, he hasn't progressed with it. Henry might know. Otherwise, we need to reach out directly to the chap involved and see where he's at with it.
I don't understand. I don't understand why this is so hard.
I've sent everybody a photo of a fantastic pit that I came across down in Punakaiki. It's a beauty. It's exactly what we need. I just looked it through on the messenger. So if you want to have a look. Anyway, we'll keep. How long do we give it? If he hasn't put the paperwork into you yet, and you say it's going to take a couple of months, are we going to have this done by Christmas if we carry on? And I mean, this is to me.
Well, we need to have it done before the new board take office, because we don't want to leave it hanging over for whoever gets elected.
We're in May now, June, July, August, September, October.
I think that's probably enough time. I mean, the other chap could have done it before last Christmas if we hadn't, we tripped over a bit with the design of it, and sourcing appropriate material. So we know we can get good macrocapa over in Rewalker, Motueka. So we know we can source material unless somebody's got something locally that's suitable. But we put quite a lot of time and effort into finding suitable wood that isn't going to rot. So really, you know, we can give this chap another month or two, and if he's not on board, he still is going to have to work through traffic management as well, how he's going to manage that. So that'll be a new challenge for him probably.
Okay, sorry. No, I was just gonna say, if he doesn't get organised, can we use a non-accredited builder?
No.
But can he contract and be under, so I think Steve Hambrook's accredited, isn't he? That dog construction for council. Anyway, whoever it is, could that builder contract and be under their umbrella and do the work that way?
So we would have to employ an approved contractor.
Yeah,
who
but
would
then
agree to subcontract somebody else, and I don't really know why they would do that. They would have to supervise them. They'd be fully responsible for their health and safety, etc. Yeah, I mean it's doable, but yeah, a few hoops for the primary contractor to go through.
Yeah, why not?
Who's going to chase him? Grant, are you happy
Yeah, I'll
to
chase
chase him?
him. We'll give them a month to get the paperwork into you at least.
then we'll go
You reckon
right
it's
back.
gonna, what, a couple of months to get the paperwork approved?
I don't think it'll be that long, as long as everything's up to scratch. But you know, it is fairly complicated, and I think people get a bit worn down by it.
Yes.
You know, it's just really about health and safety. We just need to know that they're going to operate in a safe manner, and that the public will be safe as well. So that's really mostly what it's about. They've also got to have insurances, public liability insurance, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah.
No.
That's why I'm
There has to
wondering
be
if we
some
just go back to
run
Black Dog or
business.
whoever it is.
Who can do this?
It
Yeah.
must be.
I wonder if we just bypass it and just go straight for it now.
Who?
You know,
Yeah. Who?
I don't feel comfortable, but I think we need to do what's right.
We just need to find out who the accredited. Yeah, that's good.
Well, I spoke initially with a chap from over the hill who does quite a bit of work for us everywhere. And he was all set to go last year, and we were going to hook into the traffic management while Commercial Street was being upgraded. And he's quite capable. And if Grant, for instance, wanted to project manage to get what you want, and I think you know I can just oversee some of any of the health and safety stuff. I mean that would be relatively simple.
Yeah,
it's entirely up to you what you want to do.
Well, I've been talking about it for 9 years since I've been here, so I'm really keen to get it done.
Well, how about we give this other chap a couple more months? Just keep in mind I don't know his work, you know, his work standard or anything like that, but I'm sure people in the Bay will. So, you know, I mean, his quote might be off the planet as well, and that's what happened with East Takaka. You know, the quote from the local chap was really expensive, and we ended up getting this said contractor over who has completed that East Takaka playground finally. I do need to go and check it off tomorrow, but yeah, so I don't know really. It's up to what you want for your you know for the Bay.
Yeah, probably. That's great. Thanks, Lynn.
And the planting tunnels, I don't think there's anything else moves on there. You haven't heard back from the Board of Trustees meeting from the school?
No, so there is a couple of little things there, or one thing really to be considered. So the frame that we looked at, Grant, is bigger than the 30 square meters.
Yeah.
So as far as I've investigated this far, because we're doing like for like, I don't think it will need a building consent, but I do just have to make sure that we've, you know, done everything correctly.
Yep.
And the other thing, I did draft a fairly comprehensive memorandum of understanding for the school and the Board of Trustees to give them an idea of what we're thinking and what you know, how it would all work. So I think that'll give them a fairly solid solid ground to make their own decision on.
When was their board meeting?
It was about 3 weeks after the school holidays finished, so maybe in the next week or two.
Week 2. Yeah, okay. So
No,
it'll be
week or two.
yeah.
Week 3 maybe. Sorry, Abby.
No, that's all good.
Yes, so we'll have an update for the next meeting.
Yes.
But we can proceed a little bit more if we, okay, so that's good, thank you.
So thanks, Elaine. Was there anything
I've just got
else?
one
Oh,
question.
Celia.
Yeah, what about this tree? Isn't there a tree grant that's
been done.
where we're going to be,
Is it?
to be protected?
Oh, did you know about the new one that was discovered? I'm sorry, I saw
No,
it.
I was thinking of the one in Riley Street.
The Riley Street ones, yeah.
That's sorted out, but
No.
Because
The arborist we talked to, did he come back to you?
Oh yes, he did. What did he say? I know he really liked the tree behind the church. He thought
Yeah.
that was a really, really quite special tree. I can't quite recall. Sorry, I haven't got it at my fingertips.
no, sorry to put you on the
I'm
spot.
working.
So
I'm working on the church at the moment about them making that next part of it happen. So the new because that are there.
Either way, both of those trees would need to be addressed through the next plan change whenever, or mini plan change whenever they might occur, and that has to be.
and changes, you know, and have going through at the moment, or not going through, but yeah, there are plan changes underway. So, are you aware of? Will you do that, or do you need me to let you know from strategy what's happening?
Yeah, I think policy has to decide which topics they're going to deliberate on. So I don't know when protected trees, that they did them a couple of years ago. So I don't know when they would next be on their line of sight for, reviewing again.
Okay, we can add that to a future agenda. Sorry, I'm just aware that we've got
that's right.
still
Yeah,
quite
no,
a bit to get through.
Next
And
agenda?
yep, I'll add it on. Trees, road,
Yeah.
fee.
And sorry, just one more question quickly. So I understand that Waitapu toilet it is proposed to be removed. It was supposed to be removed in April, but is there still any issues around that? I think Grant, Steve Richards tried to contact you just to see where things are at. So.
Well, I was waiting to bring it to for the board to discuss it because I know Chris had quite strong feelings about it. So yeah, but she's now not here. So I guess we need to. I don't know what people feel about the toilet, but Waitapu toilet. There's always options of putting it on our land, but I don't know if our land. We do have very much land there. We do have a little bit.
Using Waka Katahi to come to the party and I don't.
Yeah, I know. But then there's little strips, a bit of ours, a bit of Lynn's, and there's a bit of a mixture down.
I don't think TDC got any down there apart from the road, is there? That strip.
The state highway.
Oh yeah, not even TDC.
Look, it's going to be unpopular, I think, in many ways. It'll go down a little bit like with Helen Bracefield's presentation about removing toilets and sanitary stuff, and it's but I don't think there's much we can do about it. Sad as it may be, and sad as we've got the
shame there's no budget for it.
Yeah, it is a shame, but it's
we were lucky to get it for
no budget, no place to put it.
Yeah.
He said he would keep it though. Of course, it's ours, so it'll probably go into storage on was it Rabbit Island and
Rabbit Island.
Yeah.
The biggest part to remove is actually the tank, the in-ground tank. The little bit on the top's probably neither there nor further, but it's actually the tank, the in-ground tank that that's going to probably have to be dug out and et cetera, et cetera. And I don't think we'll be presumably it's a fully sealed tank, fully contained tank. So maybe he will ship it to Rabbit Island as well.
Can't you just cut a hole in it and fill it with shingle?
I'm not sure. Again, that's a Steve's problem to resolve.
In
But-
case we build it back again.
So do you want me to convey to him not to proceed until you've had
No,
further? So just go ahead and remove it?
I think he has to remove it.
yeah, I don't, well, we've got no magic solution, so.
Yeah, I think it was agreed at a meeting in November by the board to remove it, so I'll just give
In
him.
the day of execution for summer, which was great.
Yeah.
We
Was
were very
April,
grateful for
yeah.
it, so.
Can you just minute that so he's got a record of it? Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, is that
Yeah,
enough from me probably?
Thanks, Lynn, appreciate your time.
Thank you, thank
All
you.
of-
Bye.
Thank you. Okay. Oh,
So I've got 2 reports just.
shall I go through the general elections first before we move to the board? Cool, okay. God, why is that so tiny? Okay, that's better. My big fingers. The action about the finance can come off. Good, after all that fun stuff. White paper British toilets can come off. Discretionary fund application can come off because it's awesome, and I've done the board members one, so that's good. What's that board report? Progress fees, charges, workshop, 16th of April. Oh yeah. Did we? Oh yeah, no, that's that. I was the one before. Yep, but that's cool. Good. And can come off. The Waitapu toilet one. Yeah, oh, that was the, sorry, and that was missed off the board report. That was the signage request from Cynthia, which can come off as well, but it's also been dealt with at a staff level. She's been directed to a more appropriate avenue of asking for someone else to come. Right, discretionary fund applications. Can come off. Yes. Yep, that's all done. Awesome. So I'm happy to move that the chair report be accepted. Oh my god, now I've made everything tiny.
Tiny, tiny.
Oh my god, make it better. Oh, that's better. Oh, lordy. Great. All those in favour? And we've pretty much covered. Oh, there was the attachment. Sorry, Grant.
I was just going to say the letter that came from Rain and Julie about Te Whare Mahana. I'll just give a wee bit of background. Abby and I were invited about 9 years ago to Te Whare Mahana's strategic planning meeting, and from that meeting we spent. They asked us to come, one of us to put someone on the board, and so that's why it's been there for all this time. I've been going along to most of the meetings, but to be honest with you, it really isn't. It's really, but not really worth us being as one of our portfolios. But in saying that, we've got they do strategy meetings, and they're going to keep us in the lead with that and maybe invite us, because we still should have a play in the mental health of Golden Bay. So I think that's actually been a good outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for all that time you've spent with them.
Well, it's a fascinating insight.
Yeah, cool. Now I think we've pretty much covered the special projects as well with Lynn there, so we've probably just received that too. I'm happy to move that.
Yeah.
Everyone happy? Everyone, all of us that are left are happy. I'm sure Celia will be happy when she comes back. So, that brings us to the end of our meeting. And I'll just hand up, can we happy to finish with karakia and Robert?
Yep. Oh, thank you.
Did you have enough of the quorum?
Oh, right.
Three.
Yeah, okay.
Is it 3 or 4?
What's the
Is
quorum?
it 3 or 4?
We just not.
She just
She did run.
We are
did
sure.
one.
Oh, crap. One moment, callers. We have to pause.
No, I don't know. Three might be okay.
There's 3.
I thought it was 3. I'm
Yeah.
just scrolling back to the top madly because it says on the page. Fingers not fast enough.
Give the table.
Isn't there like a jumpy button that clever people use?
4 and 3 members. You just go to the table of contents.
I know, that's what I just said, is there a clever button?
Right, closing karakia,
Close and cut a care.
the one that's written.
Yep.
Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa pounamu te moana, araha atu, araha mai, tēnā tātou, tēnā tātou, tēnā tātou katoa. It can go forth, the sea shines like greenstone, goodwill has been exchanged, acknowledgements, me, everyone.
Thank you, Cam. Wow, whew, it was.